Yes, I'm in the same clothes as last time. Let's get over it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be testing out Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance dupes. A lot of people have been saying that this Wet n Wild one that is new, that just came out, Rosé in the Air, is a dupe, and also this Makeup Revolution Rose Gold Chocolate Elixir. So if you want to see if these products are a dupe, then just keep watching. So I've heard it going around that the new Makeup Revolution, just kidding, that the new Wet n Wild Rosé in the Air is a dupe for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance. So I figured we're going to test that. I can't get it open! There we go. So this is my Love and Abused palette, and you can see they are pretty similar in colors. But I was also at the store and noticed that this Chocolate Elixir by Makeup Revolution, they have a bunch of them and I can't tell, I don't see a separate name somewhere. It just says Chocolate Elixir, but it's the one that's got the rose gold dripping. I noticed in the store it kind of reminded me of the color scheme as, I just dropped the brush. It reminded me of the color scheme as well, and we all know Makeup Revolution is known for trying to do dupes, so they're very similar in color scheme. So I figured I would try both of these and see if either one is a dupe. So I'm going to go ahead, get some swatches, see if we can see if they're side-by-side dupes, and I'll be right back to show you. Okay, so the first shade I did is the gold shade. It's really hard. I don't know if you're actually going to be able to see it on my hand. I don't think it's going to show you on my hand on camera, but basically the Modern Renaissance gold shade called Primavera is more of a true light gold color. The gold color right there in the Wet n Wild Rosé in the Air is more of a copper gold, like it has a lot of copper in it. And then I would say that the Makeup Revolution gold over here is actually like a perfect middle in between the two. So it does have that copper in it, but it's a lot lighter than the Wet n Wild copper. But they're definitely not the same color. I think you could get by with getting a similar look, but they're definitely not the same color. So the next shade is the Red Ochre palette. Oh, the Red Ochre shade in the Modern Renaissance palette. So the top one is the Modern Renaissance palette. The middle one is the Wet n Wild, and then the bottom is the Makeup Revolution. So this is the shade from the Wet n Wild, and then this is the shade from the Makeup Revolution. The Modern Renaissance one is like a deep red, and then the Wet n Wild is closer to like a true red, and then the bottom one is the Makeup Revolution, and it's more of a red with more of a brown tone, like a really light, I don't know how to explain it, it's, you can see. This one did take me more times to actually get this swatch. The rest of them was kind of just like a 1-2 and it's on there. This one I had to go back from the pan and build it up, so there is that. Okay, the last shade I'm going to do is Real Gar, and that is the orange shade in the palette. So this is what they look like. Again, Anastasia's the top, Wet n Wild, and then Makeup Revolution. So this is the Wet n Wild one, and then the Makeup Revolution is that shade. So in the palette, Makeup Revolution looks a lot darker, and then Wet n Wild actually looks like they are almost a match. But when you swatch them, Wet n Wild is a lot lighter, and actually Makeup Revolution is closer to the color. But I mean, they're still off. They're not the same, but they are a lot closer. So I would say just from those three swatches, the Makeup Revolution is actually a lot closer of a dupe than the Wet n Wild. I say the Wet n Wild still has the same color scheme, but it's definitely not a dupe. So let's go ahead and actually start putting these on my face. So I think what I'm going to do is do one eye of Anastasia and one eye of the Makeup Revolution. If you want me to do, actually I'm going to do a whole separate video doing an eye look from this palette, because this is a really pretty palette. I just think as far as a dupe goes, this one is a lot closer to a dupe. So I am like completely out of this bone shade called Tempura. So I'm actually going to use the Makeup Revolution, what is it called? Coconut. I'm going to use their coconut shade on both eyes, and I'm going to use that just to set my whole eye space. Now I'm going to do like a basic look that I always do, and I know you don't want to see that, but I feel like that's the easiest for me to see if these are dupes. So I'm going to go in with Raw Sienna on this eye. And I'm gonna take, what's it called? Latte, which is this one from the Makeup Revolution palette. Okay, now make sure that there's nothing else on the brush because I'm going to use the same brush so we can see if they perform the same too. So then I'm going to take Latte on the other side. Okay, right off the bat, there's not as much pigment for this side. Ooh, they are very similar in color. Okay, so that shade alone, I'm definitely going to say is a dupe. As far as color goes, they look pretty much exactly the same. But as you saw, this one was a lot harder to build up. It took a lot longer, whereas this had a lot of product immediately. Next shade, I'm actually going to use the same brush because this is what I do daily. And then I'm going to go into Warm Taupe, which is a cool tone brown. And I'm going to use that to just build up the depth in the corner. And then I'm going to tap back into Raw Sienna just to build the color back up of the warmth. Because you tend to lose the warmth when you do this. Alright, going to make sure there's no product on the brush again. So then for this one, I'm going to go into the shade Roasted, which is their cool tone brown. And just do the same exact thing. Alright, I'm having the same problem I just did earlier where there's not as much pigment, so you have to go in and build it more. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back into their Latte shade to get that warmth back. Okay, so that color is definitely a dupe as well. So I feel like this is where we're going to start getting into not so much of dupes. As you saw the swatch earlier, the gold shade was not a dupe. I think I'm actually going to try the pink metallic shade. So the pink metallic shade for the Modern Renaissance is called Vermeer, that one. The Modern Renaissance one is called Creme Brulee. So let's see if they swatch similar. Oh my gosh. They are like almost identical. I don't think you're gonna be able to see that either. They are very, 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 very similar in color. I would say the Modern Renaissance though has more of a high shine to it. The other one is kind of more dulled. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put them on both eyes, but I'm actually gonna do them dry first so that you can see the dullness that I'm talking about, and then I'll do them wet. So we're going to go in with Vermeer. So I'm gonna do that over here. Okay, and then I'll clean up the edges later. So I'm now going to flip my brush and I'm going to use Creme Brulee on the other side. So I can get the shine pretty close, but I do have to build it up a lot more than I do on this side. So as you can see, this one is just a lot more shinier than this one is, but I'm going to go ahead and wet them and see if we can get them closer. Okay, now let's wet the other side and do Creme Brulee. They are pretty much dupes. I mean, like I said, obviously the other one is more high shine than this one, but okay, so I'm going to take this fluffy brush and I'm going to dip into Cypress Umber, which is the deep dark brown in Modern Renaissance. I'm just going to put that in the edges just to define this even more. We're going to go in with the Makeup Revolution shade Chestnut, which is their deep shade, which does not look like it's going to match. Definitely not as pigmented. This one I'm always afraid of putting too much on the Anastasia because it's just so pigmented. So for the under eye, I'm just going to basically do the exact thing I just did to the top. So the Makeup Revolution has a shade at the bottom called Vanilla that looks like it'd be a really good inner corner and out and brow bone highlight. So I'm going to use that. The Makeup Revolution, or the Anastasia does not have a shade like that, so we're just going to use Makeup Revolution on both sides. That's a really pretty color. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, do my brows, do my mascara, and then I will be right back. Okay, so now that I have the rest of my face done, we can move on to my thoughts. Real quick, in case you were curious, my lip combo is Physicians Formula in the shade All Natural Nude with Bare Minerals lip gloss in the shade Sugar. So overall, I am gonna go ahead and say this is a dupe. Obviously, as you saw throughout the video, the Makeup Revolution one took a lot longer to get the color payoff that this one did easily. But if you want to save money, it's definitely a good option. You just have to work harder for it. With that being said, if you are new to doing makeup, I actually think this one would be better for you just because, one, it's cheaper, so you don't have to do the full commitment of this, which I think this is $40 some and this is $15, so it's a big price difference. But this one, because it's harder to get the product on, it's not hard to blend. It blends fine. It's just not as much payoff immediately. So for a beginner, I feel like this would be easier because you don't want a lot of payoff immediately if you don't know how to get it to blend out right, or if you're just going in not thinking about the pigment, then it's hard to get this to calm down if you put too much. So for beginners, I actually think this would be really good, but even not for beginners, you just have to work harder at it. But I do think overall it's a really good palette. Obviously this has some more shades. This comes with 16 shades, whereas this comes with 14 shades. So this comes with a little bit extra shades that this one does not come with. Obviously they're not all dupes. Like you saw earlier, the gold is not a dupe, but it is close. I would say, like I said, this palette is a lot closer than this palette is to being a dupe. And for $15, I would definitely pick it up. But that's also on your conscience. I know some people have a problem with the fact that Makeup Revolution seems to dupe a lot of people. Obviously, like I said, the color selection is really similar to this. This packaging is pretty much duping Too Faced chocolate palettes. Only difference is this. But it's up to you. Like I said, it's $15. They definitely look the same. So that's all I have for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next one.